Hey, what's up? Looks like I am live. Let me check on the video quality. Sorry, the audio quality may be a little off. My apologies. Give me a second. It's going to be a fun one. We're going to paint mostly today, more than talk. Um, and we'll really be on it. Okay. Good. I can hear myself. Now, I'm going to refresh my page because I don't see my own chat for some reason, which is strange. Computer's a little slow. Let's see. Okay, yeah, thank you for bearing with me. Um, okay, good. Now I can see the chat. Okay, I don't know why I couldn't see it earlier. But hopefully I'll make it worth your time. It's going to be a fun live stream in which we'll paint a lot. I'm going to play around with some hot press paper, which is always a challenge for me. Yeah, okay, we're good to go. Okay, if things slow down or look weird, let me know. I am seeing things a little delayed on my side. I don't know, that's probably the slowness of my computer. But in any case, thank you so much for joining me today. As I mentioned, we're going to mostly paint. I want to work on people and painting people in a more slow, deliberate, and careful manner, which is a little different from what I usually do here on the channel. Usually I like to go straight for it. Just paint things as I see them. Sometimes it's a little reckless. Sometimes it's a little, unplanned, more kind of impromptu. But it is very fun to once in a while do something a little more careful, and hopefully the result will show. I don't know, honestly. But let me see who's in the chat. Let me know where you're from, what's up. And then we'll go over. We have a bunch of resources, actually, to look at. So it's going to be fun. So let's see who's in the chat, because now I can hear it. Hey, it's Emma Gamer. How are you doing? Hey, Dwayne. Hope everything is going well. Hey, Henny. I definitely prefer cars more. Hey, Silvana. Hey, Louis. How are you doing? Thank you so much for being here. Hey, Cheryl. Hey, Christine. Hey, Tie-Dye and Dawn. Hey, Phoenix. Hey, John. How are you, my friend? Hey, Mark. Hope everyone's doing well. So let me just jump into it, and then we can always go back and look at some of your messages. So what I want to do is paint two scenes today, and it's going to be scenes indeed. It's going to be this photographer guide, and I have the reference photo right here, and it is going to be these two folk right here, and I have the reference for that too. I don't know how much we'll get through even just the first process. This may be saved for a different occasion, just because it's going to take time, and I'm going to prioritize again that kind of patience over speed today in particular. Okay, so just know we'll go through it, but I will definitely prioritize the slowness. Now, I want to share with you one thing that really opened up my eyes, and you've probably seen this painting I did, I believe, on Friday or Saturday, where and this is hot press paper, no texture, and I just decided to go for it and start from the focal point and paint and move outwards and really focus on shapes and edges. And I have to say, I'm really proud of how this painting turned out. I think it has a really good feel and interest to it. A lot of simplification, obviously, but I actually was just following the shapes I saw. So that spurred like a whole desire in me to go ahead and paint more people. I also did this. This is on cold press paper. You can see the paper's texture, hopefully. Now, I do consider this to be better when it comes to realism. This has a bit more of the simplification and stylization. This is actually what I enjoy doing the most. If I can go for something realistic, but just have at it in a very fun, even a loose way, or loose approach, but not necessarily, well, loose result, but still, that's one of my favorite things to do. So that kind of spurred the desire to continue doing these studies of people on hot press paper, smooth, no texture. Now, very different from what I usually work on, and poses its own challenges. Okay, so if it makes sense, let's see once again who's in the chat, and then we'll get to it. Oh, Albert Einstein's here. That's super cool. Okay, we have a bunch of people. Thank you so much. 92 people watching. Really appreciate it. Hey, Justine. Hope everything's going well. Hey, Mickey. Hey, Amy. Hey, Artie. Hey, Monkey Mutt. How are you doing? Hey, Ray of the UK. Hey Vespa, how are you doing? Jade, Inez, Amy again, Pierre. Hey, how are you doing? Peter. um, Past your bedtime, yeah. Hey Margaret. Yeah, so I hope everyone's doing well. And let me know how it goes in the chat. I will definitely revisit it later on. I see the video is stuck on my end. I don't know, that's strange. We'll see how that goes. I don't know why that happens. Video looks really choppy actually, but when I look at the live stream stats, it shows that the connection is excellent. So I don't know. Maybe I'll lower the quality here. Maybe it's just my connection streaming the video. So let me do this kind of a thing. Yeah, let me know if the video is going strange. So I think we'll just jump into it. We'll do this one first. Now I have it printed next to me so that I can use this color checker in a way and just look at the colors and sample them more easily. I don't think I'll even put the reference photo on the screen because that's good enough. That's what I'm working with. So you will get to see a decent view of it. You see very few things here are actually paper white, right? Even this slider section is a bit of a gray. And yeah, we can just jump into it. I think I'll start here from the hat. And I want to show you because this is, or you know what, I'll start with the lights, I think. I want to show you because this is a very slow and deliberate approach I don't show enough of. And if you remember our discussion from painting people alla prima, it's very rare for the colors to be very strong, or you see this is a very muted blue, that's pretty close. It's very rare for a color to be very pronounced or very strong. So I'm just going to go with that and kind of work with my instincts here and see what we can produce. I'm going to use multiple thin glazes because I want to mostly maintain my flow here. Actually, let me cover the whole thing up. We'll add the shadow later on. But you'll see today a much more careful, slow, and deliberate approach. A part of me finds that this is kind of a must for the more realistic scenes. With hot press paper especially, because this paper is just very spoiled in a way, and I find that it just wants me to work a very particular way. I don't know what it is, but that's just what I discovered. I'm going to try and match this kind of an orange color. And I'm going to talk a bit about my colors and supplies and all of that in a few moments. For now though, look at how I'm really trying to just match the lighter colors I'm seeing and not being too bothered by the rest. And I'm letting these two flow together, like that blue and that red. I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm gonna get rid of the mask. It's a photo, we don't need the mask. And yeah, I'm letting the two flow together because it's the first wash and things are still kind of loose and fun. But it's still a looser approach, which is why I said I have no idea how far we're gonna get through this process, honestly, because I'm taking it slow. Now let's start working on some of these grays. So I'm gonna mix, I have a bit of French ultramarine here. And if I add even a bit of that Pyrrole Scarlet, it's gonna neutralize it. Now let's see what it looks like compared. So this is much warmer. I'm gonna add a bit of yellow here. There are many ways of mixing that thing that I'm seeing. Okay, it's much cooler actually. I'm imagining things. It's like a gray actually. So this is quite close. Let's add a bit more yellow to warm up the gray, and we're close. We're really close. And then we're gonna use that for the basically entirety of that coat thing, right? And hopefully, I think you can see well, right? So let's see. I think I'll cover the whole thing up because it's the same kind of color, really. Maybe just a tad bit lighter, honestly. So let's do this. And again, a very different, maybe different approach from what you're used to seeing from me. But the reality is, if you want to really paint people accurately and you really nail the realism down, something about that dictates a slower, more careful approach. Ruth came back from her walk. Hello. Annie live. It's hot outside. May's having a hard time. So let's see here. Shigotach, huh? So you see, I just go through it. Now, any inaccuracies here that you may have, even patchiness is fine, because don't forget, we're gonna go over this with some darker values. And I know it may look strange, like what am I doing? It will actually make sense, but again, don't forget, we're gonna go over this with some darker values later on. It's gonna put things in the right place. Now I'm actually gonna extend this to the pens here. They're a little blue. Because their color is dark, we don't even have to match it yet. We can just use whatever blue we feel like, and it will kind of work. So let's do this. I know it's connected to the shadows here at the back and all of that, but that doesn't really matter. Right now I just want to show you, like, here's a really deliberate process. That's what it looks like. Maybe tiring for some people. Some people may dislike it. That's perfectly fine. I just find that I like the challenge once in a while of how realistic of a thing can I produce, right? But yeah, that's kind of the reality of it. Let's let this dry for a few more seconds, and I'm gonna check out what's going on in the chat. I'm gonna try and stick to the bottom of the chat so that I don't get lost in, like, it's because it's not as talkative of a stream. So I'm just gonna focus on, again, the bottom and kind of let it happen. Let's see. So Mark asks, can you zoom in more on the area you're painting? Yes, definitely. Let's do that. Thank you, Dwayne, for encouraging people to hit the like button. I see the live stream is really choppy. Maybe I'll drop the quality. What do you think? Let's see what you're saying here. Yeah, I don't know. It does look choppy. It's so weird. Yeah. You know what? Let me check something here. I'm not sure. I should have good connection the way it looks on my end. But let me do this. Preferences. Let's lower the quality. It's weird. Hasn't happened in a while. Video. Okay, so I'll have to pause the stream to do it. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't know why it's so choppy. So strange. Because I streamed 1080 before and it was fine. The audio is probably okay, right? Let's see again. Output. Okay, I'll find a way to solve it. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'll have to pause it. So let me pause it for a second. I'm not really going anywhere, but I'm gonna pause it. 1 second. Okay, so we're gonna have to settle for lesser quality. I think now it's okay. At least the frame rate isn't terrible. And I'm gonna zoom in. Yeah, okay, it looks good. I think it's okay. It's better, right? Let me know. Yeah, thank you, Megan. Thank you so much. I'm gonna zoom in. Now I'm sweating because I'm nervous. Let me zoom in for you, as you've requested, just so that you can better see the painting. That's fine. If you don't see as much of the palette, I guess that's okay. I'll just do this. It's so annoying because I see it delayed. So even when I adjust the camera, it's all delayed. It's really annoying. But in any case, I'm gonna make this window smaller. Good. And I think we can work with that. In fact, let me do this. I'm gonna set this again. And we'll just kind of tape it here to the side. We're still not really working on the background, so it should be okay. Thank you for being patient. Hopefully something nice will come out of this one. There we go. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. So now we're gonna kind of let this dry, and in the meantime, we can kind of start working on the hand. So how do I mute the color? I saw a question there. How do I mute a color? Basically what I like to do is start with the color I'm painting. So for example, I know that the hand is a little red, right? But it's not fully red, it's more pink. So I'll start with red, and then I'll just, I'll test it out and see, is it close? This is a little too strong. So if I add a bit of blue there, it's gonna make it a little more muted. See, that's really close. And that's often what you'd find with colors, is that they're, again, very, very muted. And then all I'm focusing on is just putting in the shape, okay? So here goes. Now I'm all for exaggerating the colors sometimes, you know, I love doing that. And sometimes it's just easier to exaggerate the colors instead of trying to match everything perfectly, which is very hard. So it's almost like a tool simplification, where if you're feeling lazy or at this point in the painting, this area, sorry, in the painting just isn't as important, you can just, you know, whatever, use a color that's similar. Look at what I'm doing. I'm pouring some strong Pyrrole Scarlet here right next to the edge of the shadow, and that makes the whole shadow look a little warmer. That's a nice tip for you. Near the edge of the shape is where if you place a strong color, it puts the whole thing in better context. And now let's start setting up, quote unquote, the camera. So I'm using both ultramarine and phthalo blue already with what I have here. This is why I love painting like this, because I have a lot of color here already and I can make use of that. So I do see that it's quite blue, right? The camera has quite a blue tint to it. So here's how I see the process. I'm just gonna paint this thing blue for a first wash. And I'm being careful not to touch too much of the hand here, because it is still wet. It's gonna really bleed together. That's not gonna be good. So I'm being a little careful, leaving a gap there. We can always close that gap later on. And if we want a quick win, I'll go back. Don't worry, I'm not going to finish everything. I'm going to go back to an area I previously worked on and show you how to bring out some, I guess, some strength in the final values, right? Because that's the beauty of working this way. You can really work in small patches. Let me lift a bit here. I'm going to use the big brush to lift, even though I could use a smaller one, but just a bit from the center of the lens. There we go. And onward with this wash, just establishing that blue undertone or undertint, or, you know, you see that kind of a thing here with the camera. And because the gear, the camera gear, the tripod, everything is so dark, it would be wise to set it up in multiple washes instead of getting one very patchy dark wash. As I said, the hot press paper is very challenging in that regard. So sometimes I'm seeing better results splitting up the washes. That's a terrible straight line, never mind. Splitting the washes into multiples. I find that works really well. That's gonna be one. Don't worry if it's uneven again, because we're gonna go over this again and again. That's the beauty of this process. Okay, let's let it sit for a few more seconds. Hopefully that makes sense. And yeah, sorry for all the connection problems. I think if you watch the live stream after the fact, it's not gonna show the crash. It's just gonna pause it and restart it. But because you're watching live, you get to see this. So everything is in the subtleties, right? Nothing here is too strong of color. And in fact, let me zoom in and show you. Just gonna hold it up, zoom in, right? You see this? Even the almost fiery looking hand here, or red, it's really a muted red, and then a bit of that Pyrrole Scarlet near the edge makes it look like it's glowing, right? And by the way, if you're wondering about edges and how I'm going to soften these, I can soften them later on once this dries, so don't worry about that. Let me give you a word about my paints, just to kind of bring you up to speed. You know, color isn't the most important thing, even when you're matching, especially with these gray scenes, okay? So you don't need anything too fancy. Phthalo blue, French ultramarine. I love this kind of a burnt sienna thing here. It helps me warm up blues quickly, or turn them gray if I want to, but that's kind of an optional one. I have a yellow ochre here, so it's a very muted yellow. Pyrrole Scarlet, quinacridone rose. These two are very important. The Pyrrole helps me do this kind of a thing you just saw, and the quinacridone rose is great for darker values. It's very easy to mix. So that's kind of my very basic color palette. I have a bit of black here too in the corner, just neutral tint that I will probably use later on for the darker areas. So that kind of gives you a window into some of the process. Let's start working on the beanie, and I'll show you how this ties in with the next wash. So here we have a bit of a darker muted blue. So let me show you what I mean by muted. Now if I just use French ultramarine, look at how different it is from the actual color. Can you see this? This is a huge difference, and it's a very amateurish mistake to go with one color that is not similar if you're trying to match. Now, what if I add a bit of phthalo blue? It's still not even close. What we need here is red. So let me add a bit of the quinacridone rose. It could be also the pyrrole scarlet, doesn't really matter. But let me show you how this starts to get close. Now this is actually more green. So I'm gonna add a bit of yellow and we'll slowly match the color, okay? I have green here. We could also add green if we want to, but see how it gets closer and closer? Now it's really close. So that's our color. That's really, really close. It's a bit hard to see there, I know. Let me show you up close. See this? It's very close. Now, this is more than close enough, and that's the point. Especially in the context of a large painting, you'll see this, it will make sense. But the problem is that this is dark, so it's not going to flow. So I'll probably split it into two washes, and that's how my mind works when it comes to these processes. I have to split it this time, otherwise I'm going to have zero flow and it's going to be super hard. So I'm going to do one go over it, and then I'm going to do another one with the same mix, and it's going to be not a problem. I'm going to mix the same thing afterwards, and it's going to be fun. Okay. Now here I'm working already on smaller shapes, so I have a bit more time to, if I want to blend some edges or do stuff like that, I can do that now. So let me get that shape in real fast, like so. And this is just the beginning. Remember, we're still establishing. We have this seam line, or whatever you want to call it, through these small lines that follow the direction of the knitting, or, you know, whatever. It's terminology I'm not as familiar with, so my apologies. You'll let me know in the chat. And see, and then I can, let's blend some edges. And again, it's still not dark enough, probably. We can make it darker later on. So if I smoothen out that edge, and this edge here, and this transition there, it'll start looking like something. Now I can use the opportunity while it's still wet. Let me get some dark, kind of black paint here. Maybe, let's use some quinacridone. Some carbazole violet, because it's dark enough. I just want to get a bit of darkness near those seams, or whatever these are. Because I see it, and later on, once I darken it again, it will make more sense, so don't worry about that. But it is there. I see a bit of that darkness. Now I can afford to do this now, because it's a small shape I'm working on, okay? Now, same goes for the color of the skin tone there, right? It's darker than I got it. I need to get it darker. It's kind of the same color I mixed, only darker. So let's do that. Now look at what I'm doing here. I'm starting with the purple I have here. That's fine. Adding red. Slowly we'll push it towards the right color. Don't worry about the mix you currently have. Work towards improving it and getting it closer to what you need. So I added a bit of yellow to make it a little more orange. That's actually close, but we need to mute it with a bit of blue. And look at what I'm going to give you. This is an important meta tip I'm going to give you in a second. And this is close. So we can go ahead and, I think, cover the whole face with this dark paint. Okay. What I'm doing is not going to be perfect, but I am trying to give you a taste of what a more careful, deliberate process may look like, okay? And then while this is still wet, we could go ahead and kind of use a mix of a few colors and very carefully maybe put in a bit of the beard, indicate it. And it's gonna melt into this wet and wet, okay? Let's lighten it up a bit and just put it in while we while it's still going to spread out. And you see how it starts to, this part of the painting almost starts to look like something, right? See this? This looks really cool. There's actually a bit of a shadow here. Let's get that in as well. A good trick for you, if you feel like it's too strong, just give a few dabs on a towel and then do it again, and it's going to be a little more gentle. You can also use your hand, of course, as you've just seen. Now, this part of the hand is not white. Actually, I know it looks quite light. There is a bit of a nuance there, maybe a yellow or very light color. We're going to get that later on, okay? And another fun thing I forgot to mention about this kind of a process is how you can just continue working. You don't have to stop. Why? Because you're working on a section, then you're working on another section. By the time you finish the second section, the first section started drying, and you can kind of jump in between them. Okay? I know it's a slow process. I doubt we'll get close to painting the second process, but yeah. Hopefully it's still enjoyable. Let me know your thoughts. Question: can you paint nature, landscape, and animals? Yeah, definitely, a lollipop. I actually have quite a few videos about the topic, so be sure to check them out. Let's see here. Yeah, if you can refresh. Sorry about any issues you may run into. Let's see if there's anything interesting. Vespa for Jan. Liron, do you trace the image onto hot press watercolor paper directly? Yes, that's how I did it this time for both of these paintings. Yeah, I just traced them directly. Amy says, keep going, Liron, your paint is drying. Yeah, that's how it is. It's a chase. I usually trace for these kinds of processes. I just want to get a quick painting done, a quick drawing that's ready for you for a tutorial. So that's how I usually do it. Now, for the next quick win, let's get the shadows on the jacket. Okay, so let's first look at them. And remember, it's very rare to see a very strong, bright color, which makes our process easier. Makes it much easier to match these colors because muted colors are easier to match. So if we look at this, it's kind of a similar blue almost to the beanie. It's almost like the scene has a way of reflecting the same light and making it look very similar. So you see, it may be a bit stronger, just a touch stronger towards the phthalo, it feels like, because it has a bit of that greenish feel to it. So let's start with phthalo blue and a bit of yellow ochre and see where it gets us. So we're actually still too strong here. I think if we bring just a touch of quinacridone rose, we should get really close. I don't know how well you can see this. This is really close. But now we need more of it. So I'm gonna mix more of it. And try and keep that ratio. So a bit more blue, a bit more yellow, and then ultimately a bit more quinacridone. And let's see where that puts us. And of course, the shadow is not the same all throughout. It's not the exact same color. So something to have in mind. We're simplifying some of it, of course, but it's not all the exact same color. So just remember that. You can stop and vary it while you're doing it. It's not easy, but you can do that. Now let me get a bit more water in there and we'll start. So, and the drawing is really based on light and shadow here. So I'm just following the lines I drew. Now one thing to remember is, because I drew this, I know how to follow it really well. If you didn't draw this and you're following my drawing or whatever, it's going to be a little harder. So have some patience with yourself if it's hard. Get this shadow in, and this within the shadow, honestly, it's all just the same. For now, that's good enough, I think. So we'll just block it all off. There's a bit of a highlight here. Let's preserve that. And this process, you see, it's different. It could be very slow, could be a little more tedious. But again, if you're looking for that accuracy, I say this half jokingly, but it is true. A price has to be paid, in a way, for that accuracy. You have to pay some kind of a price when it comes to the process. You can be a genius and get things right the first time, but I'm definitely not there. I need that. Now, we're still artists, so I get to decide what I do here, and what I decide is to smoothen out some edges, to make the composition a little more interesting, a little more appealing. So here we go. So you can still have choice. This is actually should be a little more blended here. So you don't have to follow everything exactly the way you see it, right? I am trying to show you a very deliberate, slow process that makes for a more accurate result, but that doesn't mean we don't have freedom within that process, okay? Yeah, and let me know in the meantime, did you get to create this week? Did you have time to paint? How are you doing with your creation? Are you happy? Do you feel like you're not doing enough, you know, anything that's on your mind, I'd love to hear. It's great for me to know. We were on vacation, as you've seen. It's been great fun. You see how it starts to come together, this painting? It makes sense. But yeah, we had great fun in the desert, change of scenery. And this goes here. This is actually here. I think it. If you get some of these wrong or not perfect, that's fine. You know, we're making. So here's my point. And by the way, let me just get this kind of a light value here. I see a bit of it. We can complete it later on. You see, there's a mid value there. That's the beauty of working in small areas. You can always go back and fix and improve. I had a good point and I forgot it, but in any case, whatever. Yeah. So that's our process. I'm gonna remember it in a few seconds. But you see how it starts to look good. Oh yeah, I wanted to say a simple thing. We're taking so many precautions here and careful work to get this to look similar that even if we mess it up a bit or we don't get the exact impression, we're still likely to get close at the very least because we're putting in a lot of effort, you know? This isn't easy, what we're doing right now. So effort goes a long way, even with the same level of experience. That's something I found is true for especially these works that require you to be a little more dedicated and work a little more carefully. I just find that it matters, you know, if you're careful about the process. See, I see a bit of that mid value there, so I use my water to expand a bit of the wash. Now here it's a very sharp edge, so I'm not doing that, but down here it gets a little looser as well. See? So I'm trying to follow the edges I see too. I'm not just filling in areas, I'm really thinking in terms of shapes here. And what the shape looks like, what its edges look like. And hopefully that starts to give you a good kind of introduction to what this process is all about. And you decide if you want to do something like this, you know, you totally can. I hopefully demonstrated this with the boats, the realistic boats that I did. Beautiful Marseille view. You can totally do this. It's actually a matter of choice and very careful work, more than anything else. So there we go, all the way to the bottom here. Kind of messed up the shape, but that's fine. And then here we go, smoothing it out. And this is all in the shadow. Now, let me quickly try and match this. This is just a dark blue. So because it's so dark, we don't have to be as accurate. So I'm just gonna mix a bit of my quinacridone, a bit of my phthalo, add a bit of touch of yellow, because I want this to flow together more than I care about the exact color here. And then this is shadow as well, like this. It's a bit too purple for my taste, so we'll add a bit more yellow and we're off. And even if we're missing a middle value here, right? This blue has a mid value, we're missing it. That's okay. We're skipping it for now. We'll add it later on. It's actually not a big of a deal. I'll show you. But I do want to make sure I get the shape of the darker shadows in. So we're gonna keep it like that. And we're gonna go down here. And honestly, this is also dark, so why not, while we're at it, let's fill in that area. And if you feel like you're getting bored of this process, let me know. We can just stop, honestly. We don't have to continue with it, as long as you got the point going. As long as you understand what this is about and what the application of this is. Right? But don't worry, this is going to make a whole lot more sense the more we add to it. That's the beauty with these processes. The more you add and the more you finalize it, the more sense it makes, the more sense the shapes make. That's just how it works. So this is here. And yes, you do have to work in small shapes. So like here, I could merge this already with the tripod. There's a dark black value or whatever on the tripod, but I'm not stopping here. You can do a bit of wet and wet if I really want to here for the seam area, not seam, where the leg is kind of creases or folds, whatever. Well, let's let this dry for a few seconds. Hopefully you start seeing how a realistic impression is created. That's how it works, slowly, deliberately. building it up. Ask me any questions you have. Let me go to the chat for a while. Let's take a quick break from this process and see what's up, and we'll continue. Don't worry. I think we can actually finish it if we really want to. Dwayne says, "Wow, the shadows and ripples are amazing." Thank you so much. Yeah. We still haven't gotten to the water ripples, but yeah. Thank you, Dominic. Thank you, Marina. We have cool 111 people. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And Dominic says, I just started back painting, yet not really planning out the project, just free with the subject. Yeah, definitely. That's a great stage to be in. I think it's important, and I do that all the time. This is kind of a more specialized project, if you will. But I think there's a lot of value first in really learning to let go with the medium and just getting the hang of the basics of it. Because at first, I don't know what's up with my chair, but at first you just feel so uncomfortable with the medium itself that it's really important just to learn to get the hang of it. And let's see, Dalandan, are you using grid lines? No, because I just traced. I don't need grid. I just traced the drawing. Marina says, prepping for June watercolor month on Doodle Wash. Oh, cool. I'm so out of touch with these events, so I'm gonna search Google and read about it later, and I have no idea what it is actually. Whoopsie doop. Let's see here. Now it's starting to pop. Indeed. Did you take Ruth on vacation? We actually did. Let me move this to, you know what I'm gonna do? Add tab, move tab to new window. I'm gonna close my browser because it's super slow. It's so annoying. Wait, give me a second. I'm gonna do some housekeeping. It's gonna work slow for a few seconds, but I'm gonna close it. I'm gonna close like a big chunk of my windows that are slowing the computer down, and it's gonna be better. So just give me 1 second. Let's get rid of this. Ba-boom. Let's see here. Just 1 second. I always have like a bazillion tabs open on Chrome, so it just slows the computer down. Hopefully now, it's gonna take a moment, but it should be better. This is so annoying. I should have been better prepared, honestly. Yeah, okay, so I think it's gonna be better now. My apologies. Vojta says, love it so far. Thank you so much. I also bought both your courses, so I have been painting and practicing. Awesome, that's cool. That makes me happy. Dominic, I wish to recreate my sketches or paint some of them, yet do not want to ruin my sketch properties. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it's always scary to take something to the next level and so on. Yeah, it's funny. Let's see here. Did anyone tell you sound like Owen Wilson? You know, it's funny because I think I can do a pretty good impression of him with that wow. So that's funny. I actually can do pretty decent impressions of many people. I just don't do it as much, but I could. And Scotty says, so interesting, beautiful color. Thank you so much. Yeah, and don't worry, for anyone who's bored with like watching this live, like drying paint, I will post like a faster version showing just the painting process, I promise. Let me go get a towel because it's super hot and I'm gonna open up the window. So sometimes there's noise from the outside, but we'll see how it goes. Give me a second. Okay, thank you for bearing with me. Almost smacked the camera down with that spin. But in any case, yeah, I think we're ready to go into some more details. Let me show you something fun, okay? Look at this patch here. You can tell that it should be just more of a blue, right? It's not that blue. So let's look at the color and try and match it, because right now it's too light. So what I see here is just, if I add a pure phthalo, that's still quite light, that's gonna look good. Actually, do you hear that? Actually, I think it's going slow again. I don't get it. I don't know why the stream keeps getting stuck. That sucks. Sorry about that. Oh, maybe I'll move this. I don't know. Let's see here. I just realized I have a bunch of stuff obstructing the modem. I don't know why it's so slow. This is so annoying. Wait. Am I watching? I don't know. Sorry about that. I have no idea, but I'm just gonna continue painting. The stream's quality is strange today. Something's up. Just not sure what it is. But just let me show you how once I add that, see that extra layer of paint, it really puts it in its place. And it's gonna make more sense even once it dries. But you see how it's just much closer now? Can you tell that? Hopefully you can. And if you can just match areas, match this to look better, match that to look better, you'll do fine. You'll create a beautiful end result. But so let us continue. I'll try not to get distracted by the stream's quality. I don't know what's up. What do you want us to work on next? Should we do the background? Maybe we'll do the background just for fun. So we have this green there and a blue. Let me show you. Okay, let's start with the blue. The blue is very muted actually, so I'm just gonna take a bunch of water, add it, make myself smaller here, add it to here, and just mix something super duper light, okay? That's the key here. We don't want to go too dark. Sorry, I have to move the photo here for a second. But what we're gonna paint is, do you see how there is blue showing through? And then there's just green above it. So we're gonna first paint the blue and then add the green in. We're probably not gonna do it wet and wet, though you could go green to blue, but let's do it step by step. So first off, that blue, it's gonna be very light. So I have a feeling that this is, yeah, that's a good value. That's a good value. And look how fast I have to work because this is hot press paper, and if I take just a moment to rest, it's gonna start drying unevenly, and that's really annoying. There we go. Just keep moving the wash down. I don't know what's this dirt I have on my brush. Sorry about that. You gotta keep pushing the wash down. All the way to, I'm gonna do it all the way to the bottom. You know what? I don't care. I think I'll do it like that. There's the hand here. We still haven't painted his other arm and hand. That's fine. Just keep moving the wash. You see areas where I took my time are gonna be a little patchy. That's the one kind of downside with this paper. And let me switch over to a bit of green for the foliage down here. And that's gonna be pretty much our approach for the wash. And sorry, I know you can't see the reference photo. Just gonna fill in the background there. That's gonna be good enough for now, I believe. There's a bit of it shown here. And that's fine. I'm not gonna keep all those highlights, so I don't care about any of that. Yep. I think we're good. And we'll just continue at our own pace. But this is the first, like, establishing the blue, right? And then on top of that, we'll add the green, and it should look a-okay. Thank you, Sue. Hey, Laura. Still love watching this process and the painting coming together, even though I'm forced to change myself approach to more abstract style. Oh, sorry to hear, but you can make something out of it, right? Feel free to send me a picture of the new style you're switching over to, and maybe I can try and help. No, I don't have moderators, but I should probably. Mark, this is gold. I've learned some great tips today. The bit I find hard to manage is when to apply paint. I find it hard to judge the correct humidity for the brush and the paper. More practice needed. So one thing to note is that I'm working here wet on dry, so you don't even need to have good timing for most of this process. Most of this process relies on multiple individual washes, so you're good. You don't even have to worry that much about that kind of a thing here. But yeah, White Res, I think an important lesson here is that one should first focus on painting shadows and not light. Is that correct? Kind of, it could be correct, but you could also paint light. You could start by, I started here by painting the light, so it's kind of, you know, it depends, I guess. Raymond, hey, just log in. This painting is amazing. Can I ask what paint you're using? Yeah, so I talked a bit about it. I have mostly Daniel Smith, if you're talking about a brand, Phthalo Blue, French Ultramarine, kind of a burnt sienna, quinacridone rose, pyrrole scarlet, yellow ochre, a bit of carbazole violet for darks, a bit of neutral tint for darks, and that's pretty much it. And big mixing areas, which is one of the most important things, actually. So yeah, let's finish this other arm. Now here's an interesting place where we get to have some artistic freedom. So this arm here is a bit at the back. It's obstructed maybe by the by the camera and the tripod and everything. I hate that I can't stream 1080 properly because it looks so good on my end. But in any case, it's obstructed by the camera, so maybe we can go with a bit more flow this time and simplify. Let me show you. So we have this very muted red here. For the hand, it's almost like a non-existent pink. We can probably work with what I have here. And look at what we're gonna do. I'm just gonna do it in one go, alla prima, even though we're aiming for more of realism. So look at what I'm doing here. I'm putting in one value for the entirety of this hand, like so. Kind of got out of the lines, but that's fine. And then I immediately switch to a darker blue, and it doesn't even have to be that accurate because this thing is just behind in the background. Just make sure you don't do anything too, you know, shouty or too inaccurate, but as long as you kind of get the gist of it right, you should be okay, honestly. So here we go. And look at how slowly this turns into a part of the painting. I can add a bit more phthalo, a bit more black actually in the carbazole just to darken it ever so slightly in these areas right here. There should be a part of the arm showing through, but I just dropped that. Here, same kind of thing. Let's just fill in that area. And let me show you something fun that if you've been watching for a while, you know I like to do. This is a bit lighter than the background. So I'm going to put the dark value here, the dark color. And then I'm going to, oops, that was almost a disaster. And then I'm going to come back with a brush that has some water in it. And look at what I'm doing. It doesn't have a lot of water, just a bit. I'm just bringing in that dark paint over the shape I want to keep a little lighter. And that way I don't have to mix the light paint, put the light paint. It just kind of happens naturally, honestly. And could be even darker, probably. And then we have that strap. Let me mute this green, this blue a bit. It's too strong. And then this strap here. And you could use masking tape. You could use whatever technique you want, maybe to mask like the tripod, or if you really want to go there and be accurate, you can do a lot of things, honestly. But that's kind of the gist of it. And yeah, I think this is good. This shouldn't, there's a gap here. But you can always go back and fix these areas where there's an unnecessary gap or whatever. Now let's add the darks to the camera, because we already have this nice dark mix. So look at what we're doing here. I'm just putting it in. Edges don't matter as much with this approach. I'm just putting in shapes. I am going to take care of this edge because it is very visible and it's a round shape. So let me show you. I'm just going to do this. There you go. And then I'm going to put in some darks on the inside here of the lens just to make the middle look a little, you know, lighter. And yes, there is a mid value there. I'm going to add it later on. There should be a mid value that's not as black and not as blue or light as this. And we can actually use this opportunity and continue working on the camera. So let me just do a bit of a more loose impressionistic approach here to the details. What is important for me is to show the maybe the light on the legs. See, like this. Get a bit more dark. And what's funny is if you got some part a little more accurately, you can go a little wilder with the other parts. You see, I'm kind of going a little looser here. And that's maybe your personal kind of touch, or the thing that where you're not so adamant about painting it exactly as it is. And it could be great fun, or you can decide to be a little more patient and still maintain the same level of careful deliberate planning and, you know, all of that good stuff. And you'll notice that the blues here on the tripod and everything else should be more blue. So we're going to glaze over it later on, don't worry. We'll get it to look a little more blue later on. In fact, I almost already did a bit. But you see, that's how you build it. Slowly, you look at this terrible line, but it's still, it works. It's okay. It's still light and shadow. And I see a bunch of dark shadows here. Let me show you here in the middle. These honestly can be done with almost a dry brush if you don't care as much about the technique in this instance. So look at what I'm doing here. I'm just gonna put a few of these in. Like this. You could also pre-wet this if you want to. Let me show you. So if I just do this, you can do this a million different ways, okay? So let's say I'm gonna pre-wet this area and even this area, okay? I put some water there. And you have to be real careful with this paper, otherwise you're gonna just reawaken everything. But see, a few smooth lines, that's where timing comes into play. Like you said, sometimes it's very hard to know what the right timing is. Just a matter of doing it a lot till it becomes second nature. Then if you missed some of it, you see, and that starts to give it some more depth actually, which is a lovely stage of the painting. Now it starts to get a little bit of depth. Now notice again, there's this bit of a slightly darker value there. Let's see if we can get that in right around here. Can you see that? A bit darker, and then it goes around here, and that's gonna also enrich the shapes here. And then there's a bit of it here too, and a bit of it here. I can see it, and here, and then it just goes a little lighter. And you can continue doing this indefinitely and continue adding and improving and so on, right? But I think we're at a good stage. I think probably what I'm going to do is add the background and kind of let this one go and maybe get a bit of work done on the next one. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see about that. Because this was a tiring process so far. Now let's add these bike here down at the bottom. Just a few details. And ask away again if you have any questions. Now is the time to ask them. Let me show you the bike here. See this area? We're gonna go for that. All I see is just a few darks, so I'm just gonna put these darks in, following some of the shapes I see. And yes, there is a highlight or in mid values. It's not just the darks that tell the full story. So you can do a lot of things to tell a full story. Take your time, add more details, add more layers. I'm gonna keep it relatively simple here. Let's add that cast shadow. We don't even have a ground yet, but I'll add the cast shadow, a bit of that other petal or some details here. And you see it starts to kind of take shape, right? And then let's give it a second to dry and we'll do the background. So let's see what you're saying here. Mark, I wish my art teacher when I was at school would have explained and demonstrated the way you do. You have an exciting, excellent teaching style. Thank you so much. And thank you. Come on, 103 watching, but only 52 likes. Amazing. Mark, you got us up to 104 likes. That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. John, loving your breakdown of your process. This is looking great. So happy to hear. Thank you, Dwayne. Thank you, Monica. Yeah, I'm definitely patient with this. Oh, hey, Mark. How are you doing? Dare Imagine. I don't think I ever connected your Dare Imagine username to Mark, so thank you so much for letting me know. Hey, pounds and dollars. I know these things, but trying to pull it together in a painting is where it can go a bit tits up. Yeah, so what I would do is focus really on one skill at a time. That's a big part of it for me. Just work on an even wash, work on matching the color, work on etc., etc. Individual skills, one at a time. I find that to be very useful for internalizing what you actually learn rather than, you know, just consuming. Dominic says, what type of art is it aimed towards? Like, is it for more of a free way of portraying a subject? So in a way, yeah, I prefer the freedom to paint however I want. To me, the holy grail is to be able to get a realistic impression while still maintaining a loose process. I find that's the most fun thing for me personally to do, but it's not easy. You know, it's not easy. So for that purpose, I practice both this way that's a little slower, and then a looser, more direct way. And learning to put these together slowly with time. That's what helps me. Mark, that was a neat trick to darken the lens edge to make the glass pop. Yep. It's following the values. Dominic, I'm more of a self-taught artist after high school. Do you think watercolor is a detail-oriented medium? Or, oh, what type of art? Okay, I don't know if it's detail-oriented necessarily. I think you can make whatever you want with it, you know? That's kind of how I see it. You can turn it into whatever you want, whatever style you want. And if you look at different artists, you know, you have so many different artists that work in so many different styles, honestly, that you can do whatever you want with it. Let me get rid of this piece of light here. Direct sunlight. It's like the worst time of day for filming. And let's get going on that green. So I actually have a nice shortcut here. So I have Undersea Green, which comes with the Daniel Smith secondary color palette. So let's see how close that gets us to our desired green. Sometimes I'll just choose a painting that works and try and get it closer to what I need from there. So let's see how close we are. That's actually not too bad. We need to mute it a bit, or it's actually close enough. Let's see here. I'm gonna add a bit of quinacridone and see where this gets us. If I need to mute a color, I'm gonna use the one opposing on the color wheel. If I'm using a green, for example, I'll use red. Red is opposing on the color wheel. So it's close. It's not perfect though, but it is, I think it's close enough. What the heck? Why am I being, all of a sudden I'm being a perfectionist when I don't really need it. So just the green is too strong, but let's add a bit of Pyrrole Scarlet, see what happens. Because just the green definitely is not the right mix. So that's that's too muted. So I'm gonna add more green and then add back the quinacridone, and that's probably maybe a bit of blue too. So I'm just playing around with it till I find something that looks good and is close enough. I think I need more blue. My color matching skills honestly could be improved, but yeah, this is it. More phthalo blue did the trick. So let's go for it. Again, we need speed, we need confidence, and we need to leave gaps for those blue areas that show underneath. That's not an easy thing, but I will do my best. And hopefully it will work out. And of course you can just do the other way around and add opaque paint later. And do whatever you want really. Well, I'm gonna do it this way, just negative painting, and hopefully it will make sense. If not, it's not the end of the world. Now at first, where it's farther, it's just more green, and then as it gets closer to us, it starts to be a little more of the blues showing through. The ripples here, see? So let's see where that gets us. A bit more green, a bit more quinacridone, a bit more phthalo, and a bit more green. Again, have to remix, unfortunately. That's good enough. And if you feel like you've gotten it too, let's say, single-lined, or you know, too many small details, you can always just use a sprayer just to help the paint spread out a bit. Honestly, I didn't have to do it, but you know, just to show you. Let's put this here. This is not easy. Rendering these small details in a spontaneous looking way is definitely not easy. And a bit more red. I feel like this is too strong of a green there. I feel like it should be a little grayer. But you do your best and you learn to improve at it with time. You know, maybe it's too much, maybe it's too many of these, and plus there are some grass blades here that I should probably start putting in while this is still wet. This, honestly, this part of the painting I'm kind of simplifying quite a bit because I don't feel like dealing with it. And let me show you. So I'm gonna bring a bit of this here, just to help some of the paint, free up, and it's gonna loosen up some of that tightness in in the ripples. Okay, and let's just wrap this area up. I'm gonna just glaze over everything I put earlier, kind of like I did before. I'm a bit lazy, I'll admit, right now with this section, so I'm just gonna fill it up like that. Doesn't matter as much. But you see how it kind of brought it into the scene? I know the light's a little strange. Let me show you actually on my other camera, because now the light becomes a bit annoying, so it's a bit hard to see, I know. But now it makes a little more sense. Now if you've gone too dark, let me see here. That's the risk, of course, of adding a background. I think it looks good, actually. But if you've gone too dark, you can always, again, keep going at it like this. Plus, we have a few darks to add yet more, so don't worry about that. So we're going to add some darks to the beanie, and I think we'll be done with that. And then we can move on to the next painting. This is a little too... See, I messed up the color there. It's a little too strong, and it should be a little more muted. So I'm just going to put in a bit of just red directly, wet and wet, to kind of quiet it down a bit. It feels way too strong. Something like that. Okay. Now once it dries, it will start making more sense. So let's give it a few seconds to dry, and we'll see about the second process. Honestly, this is super tiring. Let me think about it, whether I want to address it now or not. Let's try and go for a more alla prima approach with the next one, like really alla prima. We'll try and get it in like 2 washes or something like that, because otherwise I'm gonna be super done. The more you experiment, the better you get. That is true. Dominic, only way I end up with a color most times is a digital photo. Playing with lighting and shadow can take risk in life, just not in my art. It's funny. Yep. One thing to do is to print it out like I did here. It makes it so much easier to see the colors and even the values. You see, this is pretty close, and it's gonna dry, I think, closer. But that's really all you need. I mean, you can match, you can do whatever you want with it. Printing is a big factor in my success when it comes to more closely matching values and so on. 33 years of school tables. Let's see here. Hey Hank, how are you doing? Work got in the way. Yeah, no worries. I'm happy to have you here, and you can go back and watch the rest of the process. Let's see here. Cubs win. How are you doing? Says simplifying composition is a challenge for me. I've been told you don't put everything you see in a painting. Yeah, that's true. You can't, even if you try. It's just really hard, you know. Like I didn't put everything here. It's very simplified. Even though I'm trying to go for accuracy, it's still very simplified, you know. Wow, you've done the experiments. Yeah. Squat shot, it's funny. Yeah, I consider just, you know, I think I'll just start with the next one and we'll see how it goes. I want to show you something a little different. You know what? We'll do that here. Let's let this dry. Let's set it aside and at least do something with this one, okay? I want to try, I'm not even going to tape it this time, okay? I'm just going to put it as it is, and let me close this completely. This is annoying. Yeah, honestly, I have no idea. Let's just wait a few minutes for this piece of sunlight to go, otherwise it's gonna disappear in a second, I think. There are a few, like, I don't know what to call these, like water tanks on the rooftop next to us, and the sun's gonna disappear behind them in just like a second, and then it's gonna balance out. Or it's always this time of day that's like a nightmare. Let's see. Lighting is the most important part in making videos. Yeah, and with talking videos, I think the most important thing is the audio. Funny enough, like this video has really bad audio because I'm doing it from my computer rather than like a microphone properly. But because I'm painting, it's like, okay, whatever. So let's do something fun here. I'm going to zoom in even more, and we are going to paint this with a bit of a more direct approach, believe it or not. Zooming in will help us deal with the bad light. So here is what we have here. This is a beautiful photo, and in fact, you see the light comes here. It's chasing me. That's so annoying. Let's see if I move this. Yeah, it's so annoying. I mean, I can just choose manual on the white balance, but I don't think that's gonna help. Let me give it a shot, and we'll see. We'll probably go with that for now. White balance. Oh, sorry, not white balance. I always make this mistake. Let's go auto. I meant the exposure. 1 second, sorry about that. Give me a second. Okay, I think that's good enough. And let me just show you one other way of doing this, okay? So let's steal this tape for a second so we can tape these two together. And one other way of approaching this is to just decide you're gonna paint more freely. And that's kind of similar to my alla prima video, where what I'm gonna show you now is I'm just gonna paint, for example, this person top to bottom, and just follow what I see and try to be as accurate as I can, but if I'm not, it's not a big deal, okay? And I find that I don't even have to tape paper lately, it just works. Even if the paper buckles a bit, it fixes itself later on. So let me show you how this kind of a thing would work, okay? Because I know a lot of people are scared of this technique or approach. It's actually not that bad. So what I like to do is I'll try and mix something close but not perfect. Let me this up here. Close but not perfect. I'm gonna use a lot of neutral tint here just to mute and darken. So I need a gray for the hat. It's kind of a cool-ish gray. A bit of yellow to neutralize this whole thing. And let's use the test paper kind of more freely here. See, that's close enough. And here's what I would do. I'll just paint the shape of shadow. So here it goes like that. And around here, right? And look at what happens. We're gonna already do the edges too, so like this. And that's a good approach if you have a strong contrast photo that you can just rely on. And then I'm going to switch over to the face. That's going to be a dark skin tone in the shadow. Slight skin tone, but in the shadow. So there we go. With a bit of a highlight there, or a few highlights actually. And we can go back and do the mid values afterwards. That's the thing with this approach. Now I do need a bit of yellow because right now it's too red. Going around the highlight down here. And covering everything but the glasses, sorry. That's the only thing that stays a little lighter here. And then I'm gonna smooth out, and I know it looks strange, but don't worry, it's gonna work. I'm gonna smooth out this edge here, and you see how it kind of starts working. Now if I bring in a bit of dark paint, I can get a few of those shadows on the first go if I want to. You don't have to, that's an extra step, but I just want to show you some of these shadows can be put in the very first time. Or you can use not as dark of a color, but a slightly darker mix. It will still work like that. Lower lip is really annoying. Let's fix it like that. And then of course there are some shadows on the bottom here. Like this. And now look at what we're gonna do. We're going to continue this directly onto the blue of the shirt. That's the thing, you want to keep the flow, and I can hold it at an angle if I want to. And we're gonna keep the flow. And these colors are still quite muted, okay? Bit of a shadow here. Let's get rid of it. I stuck it together. That was a mistake, actually. Because if I have an emergency and I need to get it off, it takes a long time. So here we go. Now you could already go into the darks if you really want to. You can really work in one go. So let me show you. You just go into the darks like this. You start placing them in. And look at how I'm working with no angle almost. And it still works out okay, even without too strong of a flow. And look at how this thing is going to define the shape of the shirt by providing a dark backdrop. And it's kind of a similar process to what we've done earlier, but we're just following the light and shadow from top to bottom and kind of filling it in. And that's going to be a shadow, and that's going to be a shadow here, and that's going to be a shadow underneath it. And let's even not think too much about the edges for now. And just kind of get some shapes in. And then you see this shadow is already on the hand. So let me do this. Sorry, second guy. We'll have to, for now, obstruct you. Get a bit of warmth in there. It doesn't have to be accurate again. And just put that. Let the two shapes touch. That's okay. And then look at, if we actually want to put in the hand in one go, that could be interesting. So let's try it out. Still quite light in some spots. And there are all the creases and wrinkles and all of that. If you want to paint around, could be a bit challenging, but look at how slowly an impression is created. And that actually works. And maybe this is in the shadow. And then let's connect it to the shadow, right? So this is a more of a free, loose kind of approach, right? And it works. It works really well, I think. Now a bit of blue. Yet again, for this area, that's quite a nice little cool shadow. But notice how still everything is muted. That's the thing that a lot of people miss. Everything, the colors, you'd have to work really hard to find a very bright blue or very bright whatever, you know, because it's just unnatural colors. Now let's get this side of the blazer, whatever, and I'm gonna do it differently this time. I'm gonna put the mid value. So do these experiments, it will really help you. I'm gonna put first that mid value. May look quite strong, but it's actually okay. And then once I have that in, let me put some of the shadow. I'm gonna use some of my dark paints. Get a bit of that shadow, and you see here? And I'm okay if some of it moves or blends too much, or you know, whatever, that's fine. That's the price of doing this kind of wet and wet, right? And then let's add, oops, I touched the paint. Let's add a bit of a shadow under the buttons. See? There are so many ways to approach painting such a thing. And I would just encourage you to try as many as you can, right? We can get all of this in one go, actually. All of the lower area of whatever, the pants and the everything. Get it wet and wet. Like this, a few small wrinkles, details, whatever. Can use a bit of that warmth, kind of golden pink color for the belt, maybe brown. Let's go for more brown. See, sometimes I get lost in the mixing too, and I'm like, what color is this? Just use a test paper and you should be good. I'm gonna add a bit more red to it. And a bit more water, and just paint carefully around the buckle. I think the buckle I'm going to leave light for now. there are just an endless ways of tackling these kinds of subjects. And I just want to encourage you to try, go for it. See, I'm taking a much freer, looser approach here, and it still works. Let's get the blue on the other side. We didn't get that quite in yet. So, see this here? Shadow under the color, like that. And then here too, and look at how good this looks. Bit of these small details, shadow under the button. You can get as many of the details as you want, or keep it very light, but you see how that works? Now, with a bit of background, this could become a much more enhanced scene. So by adding, say, a darker background behind his sleeve here, that's a little darker, you start to give it meaning. See this? And then maybe you want to switch to a bit of a cooler color as you move away. So let's add a bit of ultramarine. It's going to turn it gray, like so. And if we add a bit more, we're going to start turning it blue. See this? It's just a very fun way to paint. I think I'll have to redraw and repaint this, because I did want to paint the full scene, but just because of time constraints, keeping it a little simple. Or I could just continue with this. But in any case, you see? And then you can play with the contrast and make it stronger where things are darker or lighter or whatever, right? To make it a little more impactful. Like this, if you want to, right? And we still haven't gotten that mid-value here. We can just get it in one go and paint everything in one go. That's okay too. You see a bit of that here. Let it touch. Let it blend into the background. That's also a beautiful effect, right? Let these two shapes blend together completely. You have the freedom. You have the freedom to paint realistically however you want. And this is me working fast. If I would work as slow as in the previous example, which you can see again here, I would have gotten it to be even closer, right? I think I'm missing actually a bit of red here in the face. So I could do another go at it, mix a bit of a purer red, and look at how I can push the color of the face to be a little more red by glazing. That actually works. Watercolor is transparent, but just glazing over it makes it a little more red. Maybe you push it closer to the accurate color that way by glazing slowly, right? Let's get rid of some of the white of the sunglasses, just the glasses. Let's see what we have here. We have a bit of a darkness, and then a bit of these lines going over it, and here as well, you see, and you can start kind of get rid of it, carve out a shape, make it look like glass, put in a bit of a, let's see here, a bit of a dark black paint here while this is still a little wet, and this could lead to very interesting effects, maybe a bit of a darkness for the eye here, which we didn't get too much into. There is a bit of a darkness inside the mouth, so something like this, right? If it's too strong, you can lift some of it with your finger or whatever way you want to do this, and you can slowly get it closer and closer and closer. In fact, I see that within that lighter area, there is a bit more details that I kind of missed. So let me get that in. Now I'm really absorbed, but in a second I'll go back to the chat and see what you're saying, and we'll kind of move towards maybe wrapping it up. But the more you can get these details in, the more accurately you can do this, in theory, the end result is going to be. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Didn't even get the color of the hat here. There we go. See, without even taping the paper, with barely any angle, you can get some very nice results. We didn't even put the darkest darks down there. Let's see here. See, I'm mixing random stuff. But here we go, a bit of that dark shadow here will go a long way. See, there's one here next to the hand that could be important, just to define the shape of the hand, like that, see? But yeah, now I'm really just kind of winging it and going fast at it. I don't want to. I'd rather stop here. So let's see what you're saying in the chat. Let's kind of do a bit of a talk and answer some questions, and then we'll move closer towards wrapping it up. Thank you so much, Dwayne. Thank you, Vaishnav. Really appreciate it. Hey, Manech, how are you doing? Beatrice, how many years have you been practicing? About 7 now with watercolor. I've been drawing ever since. And yeah, this is going to be archived, Mary. It's going to all be on the channel. I've been painting for about 6-7 years and drawing ever since I can remember myself, but I was never really pro until I decided I'm going to go pro at the age of 24, something like that. So yeah. The brush I'm using is a Daniel Smith and a Skoda brush. And by the way, you can check out all of my gear. I'm going to put, there's a link, there should be already a link in the description box called freewatercolor.com/gear, where you should be able to see all of my tools. So check that out if you're interested in that. But this one is in a Skoda Barocco size 16 from the green plein air set. That's the brush I'm using. I think some of the sun disappeared. Let me open up the blinds. It's gonna get better now, slowly but surely. But you see, we just basically painted half the scene, and I don't know, it looks good. I think it looks great. Just half the scene. But yeah, let's leave it here for now, just so that we can see them side by side. I'll probably either continue this or do a new one. I really like the way this one looks, so there's no reason not to continue this at my own pace. I just went fast. I would have wanted to be a little more careful, but I ended up going a little too fast. Let's see. Mark, bang, he gets the light and dark contrast straight off the bat. This immediately gives the painting some depth and focus. Yeah, and if you're looking for a quick win, just to get a painting done and have it look good, that's one of the best ways. Just put the values you see there. You can always worry about those middle values later on. If you have, so one thing I try to give myself the permission to do is, I'm going to give you 2 final tips that are very important. One is give yourself permission to start from whichever section of the painting you feel like starting from. And that's actually huge, because maybe you see something in the scene that really inspires you and makes you want to paint it. So why not use that energy and motivation and paint the thing you want when you want to paint it, That's been huge for me, just giving myself that kind of permission. And then the second thing, and I see this all the time, use more water. This is watercolor we're talking about. Use more water, it needs the flow. And if you don't have good flow, and let me bring this one here too, and show you side by side. If you don't have good flow to it, it's probably not gonna, this is really nice. It's turned out, I told you it's gonna dry really nice. Let's see, is it just me? Yeah, if you don't mix enough and you don't have good flow, that's gonna make it very hard to paint accurately, because you need, the base for everything is the movement. So the first thing I would say if you're having trouble with the medium is to mix more water and paint, and try and err on the side of and try and err on the side of more water. Just get it to flow first. Okay, I love this color combination. This, I matched this really well. I think this is just almost identical. It was good. But you see, if I hadn't really taken the time, color matching is a weakness of mine. If I hadn't taken the time to really make sure I mix it accurately, it wouldn't have been mixed accurately. So let's see. Did you use sandpaper? Oldtune asks. Liron, did you use sandpaper for your palette to prevent beading? I actually did, yes. For this particular one I have, but I stopped doing that for newer palettes. I just don't care. It happens with time. But yeah, I did do that. Nice catch. Mark, more gold nuggets. Cubs, do you prefer wet into wet or starting with dry paper? So for this kind of a thing, honestly, dry paper. I need the dry paper. But you can get a lot done with wet and wet. If you need to work on big washes, it's easier to do wet and wet for sure, very often. That's what I would say. The color mixes in a ceramic surface. Oh yeah, yeah, we read that. Mary, I like your paintings better than the original photo. Yeah, it's funny because the painting. So the painting is really similar to the reference photo. Let me darken this as we talk. The painting is very similar to the reference photo. It's almost too similar for anyone to prefer it over the reference photo, but I totally get what you're saying. I know what you mean, because when you look at the painting, you start to think about the work that's been done to get it to look like this, and it's more fun sometimes to see a technique rather than just a photo. So there's something in our human brain that kind of tricks us in a good way and tells us, the painting looks nicer. And I'm happy to make use of that effect. I'm gonna get rid of a bit of paint here for a reflected light. I'm happy to make use of that effect to my advantage with my paintings and have people prefer them over the reference photos. That's definitely a thing I'm aiming for. Now let's see if I can get a few of the details there in the shadow, wet and wet. Very few, I don't need too much. Just to hint that there is this texture here. And we're good. Now it looks a little too strong, don't worry, it's gonna dry okay, I think. Actually now I notice I'm missing some mid values in the transition here. So let's see. This could be a little stronger. And now it's close to perfect. There we go. Yep, that looks good. That looks really good. I'm happy. I'm definitely happy with how this one's turned out. Let's see. I want to close this for a second. I hate when my monitor's in the light. That's so annoying. Let's see here. Let's take a few more moments and kind of address questions. Dominic, do you keep your reference with your painting when done? No, I usually throw it out. You can do that. It's a fun thing. I do for the... I will say this, for the reference photos that I really like, I am... If it's a good demo material, I'll probably keep it in a plastic bag. I have a plastic bag with tons of printed photos, because it's good if I have a student or something and then I'm looking for something real quick. It's a good way to have it, at your disposal fast. Because I find that it's better for lessons one-on-one. I prefer to let people paint from printed photos. It's much easier, as you've seen. So I like to have some accessible, but I don't keep the painting together with the reference photo. Now you see how this area is a little darker. So let's get that in. Now we can, at this stage, be very kind of straightforward and direct. Just get the detail in. There's so much here that it's okay. Nothing has to be perfect anymore, and it will work out. There we go. I'm gonna blend that just a bit because it is quite out of focus detail, but it will help us kind of make this jacket pop a little more. So you see I'm making just some small alterations. It's fun. Okay. Who's got a good point? Linda. They're full-size brush available. Oh, sorry, I missed a bunch of messages. Sorry, I missed, probably missed Marina's message. My apologies. Just trying to figure out what you're seeing. Let me zoom out a bit so that you can see most of it without me working really hard. I wonder if if I were to scan this now, how close it would be to how close would it look to the reference photo. We can do that experiment later on. But yeah, one more kind of a suggestion I would give is work a lot from muted photos. If you go for a very bright sunshine, kind of a rainbow thing, it's very hard to paint, but this is much easier, it's much clearer colors. If I glaze a blue over this, it's gonna look much better. I can start seeing now all sorts of different improvements and details I can add. It's just really fun with muted photos. Just works so much better. Even if it's not perfect, it's close enough, it will look really, really good, you know. White Rosa, it's good you didn't paint the other guy. Will be very good exercise to try doing it myself and compare them side by side. Yeah, and I have everything linked below, so you should find both the reference photos and the sketches if you want to go over them again. Dominic, have had showings, like I have no clue where to start on displaying my art. I think everyone's online, so if you really are serious about it, just open up an online gallery. I think that's the best option, honestly, to share your art today. I'm coming out my box with social media and showing my art. The fear, even when I'm good, I'm new and lack traditional skills. Love the way you explain. Yeah, thank you so much, Dominic. Just post. Just make one post. Decide that today, you're gonna make a post if you can. And just share something. Like, take your favorite painting that you've ever done. Let me add this small detail here. Your favorite painting ever, and put it up there. Let the world see it, really. Life is too short to be shy. Like, I get shyness, you know, I'm shy sometimes in social situations, stuff like that. I can be shy, I can be sometimes quiet if I don't feel like the conversation is about something I'm either interested in or can talk about. But in the context of online, you know, social media, just do it. You know, who cares? Life's too short. Where was I? I have IG, but I'm closed in the art community. Yeah, I get it. Art community is different. Linda, for your information, Liron, Marina and I were talking about a Skoda. I'd love to have their travel brushes. Looks like great quality. Yeah, you can find a link in the gear page I have, freewatercolor.com/gear. You can find everything there. You can find a link, I believe, either to a Skoda website or to Amazon. If you get through Amazon, I make a small commission, which is super fun. So check that out. Now let me scroll up a bit, see if I missed anything. Do you have an on-the-go street paint pack? Yes, I do actually have my tripod, and I usually just pack a bunch of brushes real fast, and that's all I need. But I have a water cup for outside. I have a bunch of stuff that I can just put in a bag and go. Yeah. Olivier, how are you doing? Better than better, Liron. You reap the fruits of your labor. Congrats. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a wild ride. I've been working really hard. Show what your workstation looks like someday. Yeah, I will. It's a mess, but I'll show you. There, Imagine says you have a very crisp touch with your brush. My hand is not as steady and as short as yours. That's what I'm working towards. Yeah, one quick trick I can give you in that regard: whatever you practice, you become better at. So, and I've had this issue before, and a lot of people have it. If you feel nervous that you have to paint fast, and you end up practicing like this, which I see a lot of people make, and they work super fast and really nervous and all of that, you will learn how to work fast. And you paint and you're all stressed and blah, blah, blah. Don't do this. Instead, do what I did in this process. Try and be accurate and go slow. Feel the brush on the paper. Don't lift it, don't move it. Just feel the friction, and then do a slow and deliberate line. So for example, I can just draw it with the brush. So let's say I have this shape and I want to fill it in. Practice working slowly. It will increase your stability. Just do it like this. Go slow and make sure you look at the edges of the brush and make sure you fill the shape in correctly. In, comma, correctly. Or maybe you want to paint close to a line on the outer edge of a line. So let me show you. Just be careful and go slow. See? Go slow. Practice going slow. This is something I actually learned from practicing drawing and sketching and anatomy. I had this realization that if I keep doing quick movements with the pencil, that's all I'm learning. But if you force yourself to go slow with the line, even if your combination lacks a bit, it will start the process of improving that skill. Whatever you practice, you improve at. So practice working slowly. It's gonna be hard at first. It's almost like fixing the way you hold a pencil. It's hard at first, it feels awkward, but once you get over that initial awkward stage, it will benefit you in the long run. Or like training yourself to paint with your weak hand. That's same concept. So yeah. Good morning, Gina. Hope you're doing well. I have used pens before. I don't like them as much, Dominic. Nancy, while you're adding the shadow in the hand, the other hand is bothering me in the lack of shadow. I'm not sure which one you referred to. Was it the previous one, this one, or the other painting? I'm not even sure. I think, yeah, it's this one. Oh, okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, I can do that. Definitely. It should be a little darker. It's almost like a dark orange color. So let's try. I'll need it to be darker. I see what you mean. Like here. I don't know if you can see it, but I think you should be able to. I can do that as we speak. Like right here. Just get it to be a little darker, not too much. Even a bit more red here. I'm using the paint quite thick here. And then I'm gonna help move this around just a bit. We'll establish some shadows over it. Not the most important thing, honestly. I could just finish the process without it, but you know, it's a good little touch there. Let's see. Few more final comments. Yes. Hopefully now it looks better, Nancy. Yeah, I get it. Sometimes you see a detail and it's annoying. I'm well. I love to see you live, says Gina. Thank you so much for making it. We're indeed almost done, but you can watch the rest after the fact. And yeah, Lynn, I did notice how you drag the brush, which is something I don't see many artists do. Actually, I see quite a few artists do, but yeah, I mean, I really try and notice like the way people use their brushes if I'm trying to learn. But yeah. Mark, does anyone know if this is hot press paper? It is. It is hot press. This is hot press paper. No texture. It's funny because I have all kinds of papers here. I have this one that is rough textured, Baohong. Which one is it? Just grain texture. Very strong. And then I have this, which I also showed earlier, and I did on hot press. No texture, and then I have this on cold press, just a bit of texture. But these two that I worked on today, let's go back to this a bit. I did work on hot press for both of these, which is a paper I'm still learning. It's not an easy paper to use sometimes. It behaves a little differently. The paint kind of stays more on top of the paper, but I'm living proof that you can learn it because I'm slowly getting the hang of it, but not easy at first, for sure. Let's see here. Thank you, Dwayne. Watercolor Bob Ross. I wish, maybe one day I'll be at that level. Thank you, John. Gina, I ordered a 34 set of Mission Gold. Oh, I heard so many good things about them. I have never used them though, Gina. Okay, I see now. Dominic Love is teaching like Bob Ross, but not on pot. Yeah, I'm not into that. Prefer being sober as much as possible. Lydia, indeed. Does the paper wrinkle up? Actually, not that much. I can show you. Again, you don't have to tape it. It's okay. Wait, here we go. See? It's okay. I don't know if it's because it's hot press, but lately I've just been not taping the paper and it works out fine. So I don't know, maybe I'm lucky, but it actually works okay for me. Trust the process, definitely, Marina. What do you think? Liron's, yeah, trust the process. I already actually have a tagline, but it's like inspiring people to create with complete passion and courage. But yeah, it's funny. So by the way, if you're just joined now, or you're like, I don't feel like watching the whole thing, I will post like a time lapse probably of the processes showing just the painting process. It's gonna be a real nightmare to edit, but I'll have fun with it. And I'll post it probably on Instagram and other places. I like to post the shorter version, just more digestible and fun. You know, I enjoy watching them myself. I have to admit, I'm watching my own painting processes. I get bored real fast with my talking, but with my painting processes, I actually can watch. I can stand them. Um, I don't like the marker paint, but the brush that has empty vessel for adding water, I hate it. It's so I never got it to work for me. It always dries too fast, and I can't get an even wash, and it's really annoying. But yeah. But yeah. Okay, good. Marjorie, how are you doing? Finally here, and thank you for distracting me from this breathing therapy. I love watching not only the painting process and astounding progress, but the teaching. You're a natural. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And Dominic, I don't like the reason asking if used. How is your experience? Yeah, I just hate it. You know, I cannot give tips for something I never really learned how to use, unfortunately. But I really dislike it. Unfortunately, I don't know. I tried using it outside. I thought it's going to be efficient to use outside. It was just hella annoying. So yeah, yeah. And I think we can move towards wrapping today up. So just to conclude, here are our paintings. It's been a fun one for sure. Hopefully you enjoyed seeing the processes. Even though I started speeding up the pace later on, I think this does show like a good, fast way of painting. It still has some realism to it, some deliberate thought to it, especially this one, right? This was faster, but this really, really gets there. I think it's a very successful piece. I'm not even, honestly, I don't think I'll add anything else, maybe just a few touches here and there. There are a few details I can add, but overall very happy with it. Probably can darken some of the blues here yet more. They're darker up top. There are a lot of nuances. Honestly, if you really want to get the details down, you can work so slowly and accurately and make sure everything works well. It's your choice. You can do this. Just practice the basic skill. If you're having a hard time, I will repeat and reiterate. If you're having a hard time putting it all together, that's a very tough thing to do. Just focus on one skill at a time. One skill at a time. Fill in shapes with even washes. Mix enough paint, right? Err on the side of more water, less paint. It's not acrylics, it's not oils, it's watercolor, and you want to get it to move. The only way to get it to move, especially on these kinds of papers, is to have that in mind and mix enough, right? You can do this. Practice the individual skills, learn to put it all together, and create beautiful, fun art that you enjoy creating. That's, at the end of the day, the most important part. With that, I will wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you can check out the courses, I'd be super grateful. A lot of people have got the frustration-free watercolor course. A lot of people can still get the watercolor realism course. That's where I teach things really close to this, like how to get that realistic impression every single time. So if you're looking for something that's closer to your reference photo and actually looks similar, if you're having trouble with that, check it out. Watercolor realism course. You can do this. Anyone can learn from it. Link is in the description box below and alongside other links to everything. So if you are looking for one of my books, if you're looking to support me on Patreon, thank you so much. You can find everything there. Really appreciate you. And I will see you on Saturday's video, which has already been edited and uploaded if I'm not mistaken. And until then, take care.